Hey guys, let's get more news about Dallas, but before that, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Why won't Micah Parsons tell his brother to shut up? At a glance, a contract extension for Dallas Cowboys defensive star Micah Parsons feels like a no-brainer. Parsons' impact has proven invaluable to the defense, and he figures as a massive asset to new defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus. Since one side of this deal involves the Cowboys, there figures to be some drama involved. That assumption would be correct. Reports surfaced before kickoff on Super Bowl Sunday that the idea of trading Parsons had been tossed around internally. No progress has been made on that front, and there will be none to be had, more likely than not. But even a minimal whispering like that can spark flames, resulting in misguided theories and wild trade projections for the former Defensive Rookie of the Year. Now, things could change, though the move would be an odd pivot for a team claiming they want to contend. However, Parsons' brother dropped a hint this week, telling Cowboys fans not to expect much progress on the extension through the coming weeks. He gave a stunning one-word, rather a one-number, update on the situation. Replying to a post about the chances of Parsons signing his extension before the start of free agency on March 12, Terrence Parsons Jr. wrote 0. For the most optimistic Cowboys fans, that timeline is a little fast. Less than a year ago, Dallas dragged out deals for Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb through the end of preseason and the start of the regular season. Jerry and Stephen Jones have maintained their desire to keep Parsons in Dallas long-term, and to his credit, Micah Parsons has not sounded off on the strange rumors about a potential trade. Instead, he has doubled down on his commitment to the Cowboys while ushering a challenge for the organization to be major players in the offseason, even if that means cutting into his expected pay bump. There may not be much progress on an extension at this time, but the Cowboys should be working toward completing that deal within the coming months. Meanwhile, we continue to wonder, as we often do with Dak Prescott's brother and CeeDee Lamb's mom and Trayvon Diggs' brother and Patrick Mahomes' brother and father and Matthew Stafford's wife and countless others outside of a player's relative trying to gain some measure of mostly meaningless fame. How is a bro comment of any service to the person actually in the arena? Why don't players exercise scene control and tell brother, wife, dad, and mom that they pay their agents a massive amount of money to manage these matters? And having some ill-informed and overly emotional relative intervening can only do damage? Mike McCarthy's Dallas Cowboys staff is littered across the NFL in high-ranking positions. You may recall that when Mike McCarthy first took over the Dallas Cowboys, that his staff featured plenty of people who had been head coaches before. Mike Nolan had been the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, and McCarthy actually worked on his staff. Jim Tomsula, the defensive line coach, had also been the skipper for San Francisco, albeit for a brief cup of coffee. John Fassel joined as special teams coordinator, and while he had never been a head coach before, he did serve as the interim head coach for the Los Angeles Rams in their first season back in LA when they fired Jeff Fisher before the season was over. The overall point is that there was a lot of leadership on that staff. Obviously things didn't fully materialize for that McCarthy staff, or anyone for that matter, but interestingly a recent iteration of it is now spread across today's NFL in all sorts of leadership positions. A common theme when coaches leave for promotions elsewhere is for them to bring people with them. Consider how McCarthy brought some people from his time in Green Bay, and even Nolan from a previous stop. It was a year ago when Dan Quinn left his post as the Cowboys' defensive coordinator to become the head coach for the Washington Commanders. He took several staffers and players with him, and chief among them was Joe Witt Jr., who became his defensive coordinator. McCarthy's Cowboys moved on from offensive coordinator Kellen Moore after the 2022 season, and he would go on to hold that same role for the Los Angeles Chargers in 2023 and then ultimately the Philadelphia Eagles this past season, where he was a part of the team that won the Super Bowl. Moore finally parlayed it all into a head coaching role as he is now running the New Orleans Saints, and recent reports suggest that Doug Nussmeier, another former Cowboys staffer, is the favorite to be his offensive coordinator. Quinn, Witt, Moore, and Nussmeier make for four former Cowboys staffers that now hold head coach or coordinator positions, which is a high figure for one group that Mike McCarthy oversaw in his time as the Cowboys head coach. There is also the matter of the current Cowboys head coach in Brian Schottenheimer, who was also a part of the group. Schottenheimer joined the Cowboys in 2022 when all four of the people we have mentioned so far were also a part of the team. Think about that singular group. If you wanted to, you could go a step further here and include the aforementioned Fassel, as he is now the Tennessee Titans special teams coordinator, although that was the same position he held in Dallas, and therefore it isn't a promotion like the others. Ultimately, we are talking about 5 staffers who received serious promotions almost directly after leaving the Cowboys. That requires context. Clearly, as Schottenheimer's was within the organization, Witt's was as a part of joining Quinn's staff, and Moore's took 2 more years to fully happen. It is still interesting, though. What would you attribute all of that to? People talk so often about Mike Shanahan's old staff in Washington and the number of future head coaches that it held, and we can assign some level of credit to Shanahan for building the group. Do we give a similar sense of credit to McCarthy? Should we? Or does the credit, for lack of a better word, belong to the players? Do Kellen Moore, Doug Nussmeier, and Brian Schottenheimer all owe a debt of gratitude to Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb for elevating their statuses? Should Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. send Micah Parsons and company an edible arrangement? If we include Fassel, should he thank Brandon Aubrey and Cavante Turpin? It is certainly strange on some level that the Cowboys have failed, in terms of the overall goal, so much lately, and did so with this entire group all working together, and that something about them was deemed to be valuable enough in other instances. Sometimes things work out in a funny way like that. Who knows what else that 2022 group will ultimately yield. For now, Quinn and Witt have an NFC Championship game appearance, and Moore has a Super Bowl title. Ashton Jeanty gives honest thoughts on possibly playing for Cowboys. One of the most hyped players in this year's NFL draft class is Ashton Jeanty, a running back who just finished a dazzling season at Boise State. He ran for 2,601 yards and scored 29 rushing touchdowns, and was the runner-up for the Heisman Trophy. Many feel he will go in the first round of the 2025 NFL Draft, perhaps to the Dallas Cowboys at number 12 overall, after he played high school football in Frisco, Texas, where their practice complex is located. To be back in Dallas, practicing in that facility, Ford Center, playing in that facility again, I think that would be amazing, Jeanty said, via Barstool Sports. Jeanty is the son of a U.S. Navy officer, which gave him the opportunity to live in a few different places during his childhood. He was born in Jacksonville, Florida, and attended middle school in Virginia before starting high school in Italy. He then relocated to Lone Star High School in Frisco, and as a senior gained 1,843 rushing yards while scoring 41 total touchdowns. In 2024, Jeanty won the Maxwell Award, Doak Walker Award, and Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award, and was a unanimous All-American. The Cowboys just happened to need a legitimate starting running back. They were 27th in the NFL in rushing yards, tied for 27th in yards per rushing attempt, and last in rushing touchdowns in 2024. Giants legend calls out Micah Parsons to focus more on football. And you, fan? What do you think of Ashton Jeanty's situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.